Welcome aboard, everyone. This is Pros versus Joes #1 to kick off the 2024 drafting season. I am Eric Balkman. You know me from the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, the Fantasy Football Players Championship, of course, the Better Sports Network's High Stakes Fantasy Football Show. 6 pros, 6 Joes taking on each other tonight for a 2025 FFPC Main Event team. There can only be one. This is like Highlander rules. There can only be one winner tonight, and we're going to see whether it's a pro or Joe. Remember, the Joes have won the overall title 7 years in a row, and it's going to be exciting to see if maybe the overall champ comes out of this division tonight. I want to welcome in my 2 co-hosts tonight, the incomparable Ferrell Elliott. You know him as the commissioner of the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com. And, of course, the 11-time FFPC League winner, Dave Terpoilli. Follow him on the X at Dave Terp. Of course, KFFSC.com is where to check out Ferrell and everything going on with him and his contest. Gentlemen, a good evening to you. Welcome aboard. Excited to have you back for 2024.
I miss you guys. It's been a minute.
It has, Dave Terp. It has. You had, what jersey do you have on? Is that 43?
It's 13.
13. I don't even, Boggy, I don't think
you wouldn't know who it is because it's a personalized jersey.
What number was Alshon Jeffrey 13 for the Eagles, or
17?
He was 17. Okay, all right. Well, fantastic. So we got the jersey stuff out of the way tonight.
Maybe somebody can tell us whose jersey that is. I don't know.
It's Terp's. Terp personalized it.
Exactly. It's a personalized
Terp was
jersey.
a fine player in the 90s for the Eagles.
So he was. Too slow, though.
This is the first of 6 extra special episodes we're bringing you of the HSFF Hour / FFPC live draft coverage. Shout out to our producer and mutual friend, Rob, and our audio engineer, my best friend, Bryce. highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com is where to send your emails. At HSFF Hour, at Eric Balkman, at Dave Terp. If you want to send in any of the questions, comments, queries, quibbles, complaints about tonight's proceedings. So let's get into it right now, ladies and gentlemen. I think Aiden is producing behind the scenes. Aiden, I'll let you handle bringing up the draft board here. But tonight, I'll give you the quick and dirty here. This is what we're looking at for the 6 pros and 6 Joes. We have a Joe drafting out of the #1 spot, Javon King. Then Matt Schauf from DraftSharks.com is actually in the 2 spot. Robert Trends, the FFPC Joe, is picking 3rd. Peter Overzet from Fantasy Life is actually hitting cleanup tonight. Greg Mastretta, the latest guest on the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, he is drafting 5th tonight, followed by Theo Gremminger from PlayerProfiler.com. He's going to join us at the bottom of the hour tonight to talk about his draft. Scott Hoyt and Chase Brown, the FFPC Joe duo, picking at 7. Stacy Perez from Fantasy in Frames is drafting 8th tonight. Another former HSFF Hour guest, Wilson Moy, is picking 9th. Sigmund Bloom from Footballguys is picking 10th. Derek Kappas, an HSFF Hour alumnus as well, he is drafting 11th. And Todd Burros from Sharp Football Analysis is also drafting tonight. Aiden, give me a thumbs up if I got that right. It looks like it is, right? We're good to go. Okay, here it is. Let me see if I can scroll up here so we can get the top few choices, because nobody can see anything right now, so I do apologize for that. So, guys, we'll lead things off to take you through the first round. Christian McCaffrey goes off the board to Javon King. First pick, no surprise there, followed by CeeDee Lamb, Bijan Robinson, and Tyreek Hill to Schauf, Trends, and Overzet, respectively. Breece Hall is the 3rd running back off the board at the 105, and then we get a bunch of receivers here. Chase Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown, and then Garrett Wilson sneaking up to the 110 tonight. Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta, a pair of Lions, wrap up the end of the first round. Terp, I'll throw it to you first on this. No huge surprises here. I guess the biggest surprise, we actually see a tight end going in the first round tonight, which we don't normally see in FFPC drafts this year, but Laporta sneaks his way to the 112.
I think it's going to become popular drafting in August. You're going to see a lot of tight end start from 12. If you miss out on one of them receivers, or if Gibbs doesn't fall to you, possibly, unless somebody like an A-Chain or Marvin Harrison, Drake London, Puka, that's a little late for him. It's a pretty good value in this draft. But if you're drafted from 12, I see no problem at all picking your 2 favorite tight ends, because you're probably going to have your chance just to be a little different, differentiate yourself a little bit, and then just pound the other positions. And starting with Laporta and McBride, you really can't go wrong there.
Ferrell, when's the last time we saw 3 Detroit Lions go in the first round of an FFPC draft like we did tonight?
It has been a while, but I would be sure to grab some of those guys. And and I agree with Terp. And full disclosure, I have a favorite in this contest. And, I am the biggest supporter of all the Joes. But tonight I'm rooting for a pro. And she's a Joe. She's got a lot of dog in her. She's a real Joe. That's my beloved little
She's great.
Perez. And, Stacy is linked with Dalton Kincaid. And I've got to come out early and in criticism of what I think I would have done at that draft spot, because we've already had 3 tight ends off the board. I think that left a great deal of value. And I would be curious, maybe when Stacy comes on, if she would have gone Puka. Terp is right. Puka is a huge value at that. If she would have gone Puka, if she had another choice. But I would have liked to have seen Puka or Taylor there.
I think that's the story of the second round here is Wilson Moy getting Puka Nacua to fall all the way to the 204. In the FFPC Best Ball Tournament, the ADP that I'm citing tonight is directly from Fantasy Mojo, fantasymojo.com. Darren Armani is the webmaster there, and he's also the godfather of the FFPC Pros versus Joe's Challenge. Anytime we cite ADP on the HSFFOer, he's the guy that we go to for that. And Puka Nacua in the the $300,000 FFPC Best Ball Tournament over the last week or so was going as a late first round pick, about a half round of value. There's that Wilson Moy gets to cash in on, as he gets him at the 204 tonight. You guys mentioned, I think Terp, the possibility of the dual tight end, the double tight end at the turn in the first round. You think that's going to be more popular as we're about 5 or 6 weeks away from Las Vegas. And then you see an experienced guy like Todd Burros from Sharp Football Analysis, the best ball man himself. He goes Laporta and McBride there too. I don't know if you were at all surprised to see Todd doing something like that.
Not at all. I mean, you're picking at 12 in a contest like this where there's no second place. Go for the win. And we saw in years past when guys, I believe Chad Schroeder a couple of years ago, maybe last year, I don't remember exactly when it was, but he did that, and I think he finished second. So, I mean, it's a viable strategy. It's a strategy that if you get those 2 guys right, really, it could separate you from everybody else.
It's a very peaceful strategy, too, because with the dual flex and the 2 tight ends, you can make some moves. You seem to be less exposed to injury. Everything just seems to work smoother when you've got 2 really good point scoring tight ends. So there's another one out there just waiting to be picked. There's more than
also it's going to make other teams panic a little bit at the position.
Panic.
You're going to see the Kyle Pitts, the Evan Ingrams of the world get moved up, rightfully so. George Kittle, guys like that.
Derek Kappas takes Devon Achane at the 202. Travis Kelce goes off the board to Sigmund Bloom from Footballguys. It's weird because I think Bloom normally takes a tight end in the first round like every single year in the Pros versus Joes. This year he didn't, but he nabbed one pretty close to the first round as he gets Kelce at the 203. We talked about Nacua going to Moy at the 204. Dalton Kincaid, the 4th tight end off the board to Stacy Perez tonight, followed by Jonathan Taylor to Hoyt and Brown. Marvin Harrison goes to Theo Gremminger as he goes Chase Harrison with his first 2 picks. Derrick Henry to Greg Mistretta, who we will talk with in about, I would say about 5 minutes or so. Greg Mistretta, the FFPC Joe, will join us in about 5 minutes here. And then you're looking at Mark Andrews, the 5th tight end off the board tonight, to Peter Overzet. Saquon Barkley, London, and Chris Olave finish up the second round to Trends, Schauf, and King, respectively here. As we look at the second round, guys, I mean, we already talked about Nacua. Ferrell, is there any other players that are sticking out there? Maybe King Henry at 208.
Yeah, well, if I'm at 208, King Henry is my guy. Whenever I'm drafting in the second round, if that player can get there to me, I'm very excited. Saquon Barkley, I think that's a huge steal. I'd like Terp to comment on his expectations for Barkley.
Yeah.
The Pitts over Ingram, we haven't got to that yet. I suppose we can talk about that later. Drake London now at a position in this draft where I would take him. I talked to someone involved with the Atlanta Falcons, and they told me that Drake London is just separating himself from the receiver set league-wide, and I can agree with that skill set. I don't know what the upper ranges of his scoring possibilities are, but I have to be impressed. So yeah, I can see some things here. But Terp with Barkley this year, is he the number 4 back? Is he the number 3 back? How great is your now beloved Giant in your Eagles uniform?
He is probably the one player in fantasy football this year that I'm like kind of confused on. It's very, very. Everybody hates him. There's nobody in fantasy. There's nobody that I know and that does this and has a high value that is drafting him regularly, no matter where he falls. Most people are going to use the same excuse. He's getting up there in age, injury history. Jalen Hurts stealing the carries on the goal line. Kellen Moore is going to run the ball more, all that stuff. But he seems motivated. I mean, I love a guy who's hungry. And you watch that stuff that came out on Hard Knocks with the Giants. They pretty much just kind of really weren't interested in him. They gave him a, I guess, fair offer in their eyes, but for a guy that pretty much was their heart and soul forever, that they kind of, chose Daniel Jones and a bunch of no-name running backs over him, it makes me think he's going to come this year and put up numbers. So I'll be probably even with the field with the volume that I do on him. But if he keeps falling, I mean, at this value, I mean, you're getting Barkley or London where they got him. I have no problem with that either.
Yeah, that's something that we touched on a little bit, but both of those guys about a half round of value. Saquon Barkley normally goes at the 204. He goes at the 210 tonight. Drake London normally goes at the 206. He goes at the 211 tonight. So a couple of values there. I think John Terry was commenting in the chat too tonight about Matt Schauf's team from Draft Sharks at the second spot, having a good solid start here. The only, or one of two teams, I should say, to start off with 3 straight receivers in Lamb, London, and Waddle. We'll get to that in a second, but I do want to take everybody through the third round, especially those of you who are listening to the audio-only version of this here. Devontae Adams to Javon King, followed by Jalen Waddle to Schauf. Robert Trends, the only one of two teams, to start running back tonight, along with Greg Mistretta. Travis Etienne is his pick at the 303. Nico Collins joins Peter Overzet squad at the 304. Kyron Williams, Albert Leach, saying a little bit of a value here at the 305 to Mistretta. Kyle Pitts, the tight end 6, is going to Theo Gremminger here. Isaiah Pacheco right after that to Hoyt and Brown. Evan Engram, the 7th tight end. We have 7 tight ends off the board through the first 2.5 rounds, and then a bunch of receivers ended. Deebo Samuel, Cooper Kupp, Brandon Ayuk, and Malik Neighbors and the third round here. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 7 receivers going here in the third round tonight of the FFPC Pros versus Joes. We got 2 teams that have already doubled up on tight end. And Ferrell, we should talk about Stacy's squad there. She just made her pick in the 4th round of Devonta Smith, but you look at Kincaid and you look at Engram. Interesting squad that she's building there with the bully tight end, 2 tight ends in the first 3 rounds here.
Yeah, and she's listening to the show. Well, it's the dance that seems to be happening at this end of the draft. What I'm impressed with noting here is the owners that have the swagger to start with 3 running backs are both Joes, and that doesn't surprise me at all.
I love what Team 3 did.
Yeah, and with the pool of receivers that exists throughout this draft, I can put together some wide receivers that will complement those running backs, and there's a lot of pass catches in that third running back, Travis Etienne. So but this is a really typical draft of what I've experienced in the FFPC so far this year. I can't really see that there's Brandon Ayuk is falling exactly where we expected him to fall. Maybe he would be 3 or 4 picks earlier before some of the conversation. Nico Collins is drilled into that early 3rd round pick. So the biggest surprises for me in this draft are the running backs going off the board.
4 straight running backs?
Yes. We've seen that Robert Trends has made it 4 straight running backs.
Well, things. Nice things I just said, I'm taking back.
Well, he could not stand prosperity. He's just on a roll.
He just had to ruin it. Every time I start saying nice things about people, he just has to come and ruin it and take Josh Jacobs.
One of 2 Joes that started off with 3 straight running backs, that was Trends. The other one that did went with the tight end in the 4th round, and I'll bring him on right now, ladies and gentlemen. a guy who has won at every level at the FFPC, and you saw him his interview with me on the Road of His High Stakes Lowdown a couple of weeks back. Greg Mistretta, welcome back to the airwaves, man.
Oh, great.
Oh, we got Greg. Hold on. I think I got him on mute. That's me. My fault, Greg. You're live now.
All right. Good. I think it was me. I had you on mute.
Oh, okay.
All right. We're all together.
Yes, we're all together for sure. What do you make of your start here tonight? Running back, tight end.
Really super odd build for me. As you know, Eric, if you've previewed any of my other teams, I am tight end heavy. I do try to get a back or two in my first 3 picks, but I've never in 12 drafts yet taken 3 running backs first. I just couldn't pass up on Kyren Williams in the 3rd. I just couldn't believe he was still there.
Yeah.
And, so I'm kind of taking the board as it comes to me, and I'm about to make some power moves.
And this is interesting too, because I think if we look at Henry, it's basically ADP. It was maybe a couple picks early, but you knew he wasn't making it back to you. So if you want him, you got to get him there. Kyren Williams was a value though, for sure. As you start off running back. I think the interesting thing that had to be going through your mind is, well, how do you weigh the fall of Kyren Williams against maybe taking a receiver or maybe a tight end there? But the value of Williams apparently won out.
Yep. Hold on. I'm going to pick on you in 1 sec.
Okay.
For me, I valued Ferguson highly. I knew I was going to have to take him a little early. I really was thinking Ingram at 3, but it was just a little early for me to take him there. But I think the world of Ingram, as you know, but I'm going to pass him in this draft. And I took Ferguson to make sure I had what I wanted there.
If Nico Collins had fallen, would you have taken him instead of Williams?
I would have. Yes.
Yeah.
Greg is on the clock right now. No, he is not. He has just made his pick here. And it is your first wide receiver that you've chosen tonight from Pittsburgh, PA. It's George Pickens. And this is, by the way, the 5th straight receiver to go in this round here. Tell us a little bit about why Pickens was the pick for you there, Greg.
I really feel snake bitten. I was building a lot of my draft momentum on taking Tank Dell in the 5th. Should he last there? I am a huge Tank Dell guy this season. So upset to see him go, but good job, Matt. And George Pickens it is.
George Pickens it is, and it was. And I think the other thing, too, that I'm noticing tonight, Ferguson was obviously picked above ADP, but I think, Greg, we're seeing the tight ends move up a little bit in this draft tonight. Oftentimes we see – I think the pros come in with the attitude of okay, this is tight end premium, and maybe, some of the pros are very accomplished FFPC drafters. I mean, Theo Gremminger for sure. One of the best out there, but some of these other pros might think like, well, I really got it. And Stacy Perez too, another talented FFPC drafter. But I think some of these pros come in and they're like, wow, I got to get tight ends. And as a result, you kind of got to react to that a little bit, knowing that, man, Ferguson, you might be able to get him in the 5th round, but the way that everybody was being pushed up tonight at his position, you had to take your chances and grab him in the 4th if you wanted him.
Yes, sir.
I think the other thing too that had to be interesting for you at the 5th spot tonight in the 1st round, Tyreek Hill, Robinson, Lamb, McCaffrey, they're all off the board. How difficult a choice was it for Breece Hall there?
Not at all, but interesting that you asked that question. I planned on shocking a lot of people. I expected Breece to be gone, and I was willing to take JJ at 5. I really love Jefferson. I still think he's by far the best wide receiver in football, better than Lamb, better than Hill, better than Chase. I don't care who's throwing him the ball. They're going to target him 180 times, and he's going to have a whole lot of catches. And I wanted to take JJ at 5, but I couldn't pass up Breece Hall and I had him in the playoff run last year, and those 3 weeks are scarred into my brain.
How does the fact that you started off with 3 straight running backs change the way that the rest of the draft is going to go for you? And I assume that you're going to be focusing on some of the other positions like receiver and tight end here, but how much does this change the approach that you thought you were going to be taking?
You have to be able to adapt. There's no, I don't really have a draft style or approach. I take value, and as my team starts getting built, I react accordingly. So obviously I have work to do, but there's lots of value on this board. You win at the second half of the draft. There's receivers that are going to come out. There's always, top guys. So got to play the board.
Would you have liked any of those receivers in front as your 4th round pick? And then do you think you could have got Ferguson in the 5th? Because I kind of do.
Yes, I was aiming for Pittman, or Evans if they fell, but they didn't. The tight ends were moved up. I wasn't as interested in Diggs, Hollywood, T. Higgins, so I thought there might be a shot that Dell was still going to get to me. So
yeah, I think with Pickens, it certainly does it. I think you got value equal to the guys that were in front of him. I was just curious about that, but yeah, Ferguson, and that's how I've been drafting early. If the tight end is there, I want, you better go get him, and that's proving tonight. Very impressive.
Ferrell, I've been heavy on Ingram because, the amount of receptions, he broke a record last year, and I was getting him when I started drafting in the middle of round 4, the end of round 4, but slowly but surely, and now he's into the 3s, so.
Greg, I think we should point out something to Terp. Look what Ingram did when he left the Giants. And maybe Barkley's going to do the same thing for the Eagles. Think about that.
Surely possible. Anything's possible.
It's just one, I'm telling you.
If Barkley falls where he fell in this draft, I have no problem taking him. If you're asking me, will I take him over London, Harrison, some of the tight ends? Probably not. But
Terp is not a homer.
Not a homer.
What's interesting is, Greg, you're in the hole right now. A couple more picks before you're making your pick. And my question goes out the window because I saw Overzet next to you had both Collins and Diggs, and Stroud was still on the board. And I was wondering if you were going to take Stroud in front of him there to get your quarterback and break up his stack. He has a pair of Ravens too, but Lamar Jackson didn't make it back to him there. But Greg, now that you're on deck here, can you tell us a little? Oh, now you're on the clock. Tell us what you're thinking.
Well, I value Keenan Allen greatly in this spot. I think he's going later than he should. Njoku was a consideration, backing up my tight end right there. But I think I'm going to rock and roll with Mr. Keenan Allen.
All right, there it is. Keenan Allen as the second receiver, joining a backfield stable of Breece Hall, Derrick Henry, Kyron Williams, and Jake Ferguson. Greg, always a treat to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining the broadcast again tonight. Go get them and enjoy the remainder of the draft, man.
Thanks, guys. Good meeting you.
Absolutely.
Good luck, Greg.
Greg Mistretta joining the show here as we are powering through the middle of the 6th round here, ladies and gentlemen, as we are on Overzet's pick. So let me just tell you, and guys, as now that, we're bringing guests on, if there's any pick that stands out to you, feel free to interrupt me and tell me why you think it was good, bad, or indifferent here. But we looked at those first 5 receivers that went off in the 5th round, and then we see sort of like the beginning of the running back dead zone with Cook and Mixon and White and Jones here, Lamar Jackson and Anthony Richardson back to back. Terp, what do you make of we'll look at Wilson Moy's team from the 9 spot here briefly. What do you make of his squad where he goes with the 4 receivers? He still gets Rachaad White in the 5th round. I'm not a huge Rachaad White guy, but when you have those 4 receivers to go with it, I think you can definitely make a nice little meal out of that.
One of the best starts. I'm not a Rachaad White guy either, but I mean 5 receivers that are very, very, very good. So I don't really see any downside to that team. I mean, all the players I don't love, but the setup of the team and how they're trying to attack, no issues whatsoever. The one thing I wanted to comment on is I'm pretty sure Todd Burros will be joining us later, I think. But I love this start. It was real positive on a start with Laporta, McBride, Neighbors, Moore. I'll have that question for him when he comes on, but the Aaron Jones-Stevenson thing is coming a little bit out of left field to me.
Oh, no.
With Godwin, Kirk, Terry, even Ridley, you could have continued to build that room, and then there's plenty of running backs left. They're kind of like, in my opinion, most of them are all the same at this point. He could have took 5 or 6 in a row. I'm not an Aaron Jones guy. I'm a Stevenson guy, but I'm not an Aaron Jones guy. I think that's just a little tad bit early for me.
I'd like to save the Aaron Jones to when we have that gentleman guest with us, but I've got to talk to you guys about Rachaad White. What's the problem?
I think the problem for me is
wasn't very efficient last year.
Yeah, that's my thing. It's to duplicate that year now that you have Bucky Irving in there who could be taking away some of the catches in that offense. You have no Canales there anymore. So I see some potential for a down year from Rachaad White, although it is baked a little bit into his ADP right now too. And by the way, before we go any further, Jared Hines, another former guest of the show, he brings this up too, and I want to clarify something here. This is a single league best ball, so when we're talking about ADP, it's kind of a nebulous thing, right?
Yeah.
So the ADP I am citing on this show is the FFPC Best Ball Tournament ADP, which, granted, Everybody's trying to win $300,000, and that is not a single league, but it's the best thing that we have for it. Fantasy Mojo will have Pros versus Joe's ADP, I think, as we progress throughout this tournament as well.
Jared is a stickler.
He is a stick, but I'm glad he brought it up because it's good to clarify that. It's always good. It's always good to talk to another Joe here, guys. I want to bring him on right now. He's drafting out of the 7 spot with Chase Brown, another former guest of the HSFF Hour. Scott Hoyt, welcome aboard, my friend. So good to have you on. How do you feel about your team so far?
You know, thanks for having me as well. This is always great to participate in this type of tournament. Love it. It's my favorite time of year, and I think we're happy with it. We felt like we knew what was going to fall at 7. We had a choice between Jefferson and Amon-Ra. We knew that we kind of like, obviously, Jefferson a little bit more just because of who he is and his legacy and what he's done, although Braun's not great. We were shocked at LeBride because LeBride was a guy that we had targeted. And we were going to take him at the 2 turns. So we were real surprised by that. But we're also thrilled that Taylor dropped to us at that spot, too. We feel pretty good about Taylor. And to get Pacheco back-to-back, I think we filled what we thought was going to be a running back, zero running back strategy turned out to be just not the opposite, actually.
Yeah, I think, Scott, we've cited a couple of pretty nice values here tonight. And Jonathan Taylor was definitely one of them. Puka Nacua was one of them. As you guys are on the clock making your 7th-round pick right now, but we talked about Kyron Williams being a bit of a value here tonight. So players have been falling. Drake London, another one as well. Scott and Chase are on the clock right now. They already have 3 receivers, 2 running backs, and C.J. Stroud as their signal caller. Taylor and Pacheco, Jefferson, Metcalf here. And you guys end up going with a tight end, Scott. Tell us about Freiermuth.
Well, you know what? I love I love where he's at. I'm not a big Arthur Smith fan, but I love where he's at.
Nobody is.
And I also think that the board dictated that pick. You just got a lot of tight ends going, and we really need to grab at least a tight end here at some point. We feel good about our receiver and running back situation. We love Stroud in the 6th. We'll take him there all day long. And so we're going where the board takes us, frankly.
Right. Yeah.
There's been a couple picks that we targeted that just got picked before us. Neighbors was one that we thought about taking early. Tank Dell. We talked a little bit about McBride. So it's been an interesting draft so far, guys.
Scott, you're a FFPC veteran, and there are a zillion ways to build your team when you're trying to win $1 million in that competition. And I think that trying to, get dead set in your head prior to the draft, okay, this is the way it's going to fall. This is what we're going to do. This is our strategy. You have to be able to pivot off that, and the great players always do. You guys were talking about maybe doing a 0 RB start, and now here in the first 3 rounds, you have 2 running backs, which I think changes things for you here.
It did, and the board changed it for us. I mean, the board changed. You have to adapt. I mean, whether it's best ball or even main event stuff, you got to adapt.
I think the other thing I wanted to ask you about here is Amari Cooper. He's the 30th wide receiver taken tonight at the 507. Deshaun Watson is recovering from that shoulder injury last year. I don't know what his health status is right now, but I do know they did get Jameis Winston as their backup. So if Watson can't go or he's ineffective, man, Cooper might be in for a monster season, and this might be a guy that pretty easily outperforms mid-5th round ADP.
Yeah, I mean, again, Cooper was a great value pick, another value pick, and again, the board kind of dictated that. I wasn't really hot. We didn't need another running back, so mix and right. We thought about Lamar, but we just felt like Cooper was a good value.
Cooper, the 3rd receiver that you guys have drafted tonight. Scott, you're on the clock again to take you through Scott Hoyt and Chase Brown's team. You're looking at Stroud as the signal caller. Taylor and Pacheco are in the backfield. The perimeter receivers are Jefferson, Metcalf, and Cooper. Pat Freiermuth now joining the squad in the 7th round. It's a very balanced team. Obviously, any number of ways that the Joes could go here with 25 seconds on the clock. You could go with another tight end. I don't think quarterback is probably what I would do here, but you could build up that stable of the backfield, add another receiver. We have 44 receivers off the board here heading into the mid part of the 8th round.
You want to go Najee?
Yeah.
No, I don't want to do that Freiermuth.
Yeah.
Oh, he's perspiring.
2 Arthur Smith players. That could be dangerous, man.
Yeah, it could be. It very well could be. Hold on. Do we need to stop, Scott?
Yeah, we got it. No, we're fine. We're good.
Good with Burrow?
Yeah, we don't want to Burrow. Absolutely want to go Burrow.
You did want to go Burrow?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Believe it or not, they want the Cincinnati Bengal quarterback Joe Burrow on the roster.
I just saw it was an auto pick, so I wasn't sure. I
was clicking on it. We were kind of debating back and forth while we were talking. So that's
okay. Good. Okay. Well, so tell me, because that was the one position I didn't think you were going to go, but you go ahead and take a second quarterback here. And this is best ball, obviously, so it's a little bit different. But you take the second quarterback in the 8th round. What was the philosophy? And tell us a little bit about why you decided against Najee Harris, who you guys are considering.
Well, because you got I don't like Freiermuth and Harris in the same stack. I'm not that convinced of Pittsburgh's offense. So that was probably decision one there. And I think, anytime you can, especially in best ball, you can hedge your bets on your quarterbacks, do it. And, if Burrow's healthy, I love his spot there. I have no problem with getting Burrow. And here's the other thing is I probably don't have to pick another quarterback until late. So
yeah.
It opens up a lot of other opportunities for us.
It does. A world of opportunities. Scott, thank you so much for joining the program tonight. Always enjoy chatting with you for sure. Good luck in the main event. Good luck the rest of the way in Pros versus Joes. And I'm so glad, to hear how much enjoyment you get out of this contest.
Yeah, I love it, guys. Thanks. And we'll see you in Vegas.
Absolutely. We will. Be good, Scott. See you then.
Good luck.
Thank you, guys. Thanks.
That is Scott Hoyt, who is drafting with Chase Brown tonight from the 7th spot. Interesting. So yeah, I was totally taken aback at that, but now that I think about it, it kind of makes some sense. And the other thing that it allows you to do when you take Burrow there, now maybe we see the quarterbacks being pushed up. We see 2 more go off the board here, Jaden Daniels and Dak Prescott. This is after Jordan Love was already the 8th quarterback drafted tonight in the 8th round, and we're almost through the 8th round here tonight. Ferrell, let me ask you this: Xavier Worthy, the pick at the 802 tonight. There was footage of Patrick Mahomes throwing a bomb to him that was caught for a long touchdown in practice. And I wouldn't say that he moved up anywhere in normal, quote unquote ADP tonight. Mm-hmm. However, I wonder what you think the effect is going to be on people drafting in the Fantasy Pros Championship or in the KFFSC this season. What is that impact going to have on Worthy over the next week or so?
I like him all right here. I would have rather paired him probably later with Mahomes in this format. But I think the player is 50 catches. He's going to push 20 yards of reception. He's going to be a downfield threat. It's going to be difficult for him to stay healthy with the size he is, and you're not going to want to figure out when to start him, and here you don't have to. So if that's a player you want on your team, fine. I look at this team. It's got some downfield home run hitters. Sometimes we don't necessarily think of Ayuk in that group, but it's a team that obviously likes those big plays. I'll be interested to see if they get some more typical receivers that we can count on for 70 or 80 catches, perhaps not as big a touchdowns, not as much yards, but to get that good 1 point per reception. But in this format, nothing wrong with Worthy. I'd hate to figure out when I'm going to start him.
Terp, in the 8th round here, Jordan Addison goes to Greg Mastretta, who we spoke with about 10-15 minutes or so ago. In case you missed it, you can always check it out on the FFPC YouTube stream later, or on the podcast, which should be uploaded in a couple hours. Jordan Addison goes at the 808. This is a guy that I heard Matt Kelly talking about this on Mind a Mansion the other day. It's a guy that's had 2 incidents with law enforcement in less than a year, where he was, street racing or drag racing or whatever it was, crashed. I don't know if he crashed his car or not, but there's that road incident and then the DUI incident as well. How do you think that is going to play into the minds of not only the Pros versus Joes drafters, but the main event drafters, the Fantasy Pros Championship drafters, as they kind of weave their way to try to figure out, what am I doing with Addison this year, knowing Cousins is gone and knowing he's going to be catching passes from Darnold/McCarthy, and he has these other 2 incidents too.
What you said with the Darnold McCarthy thing worries me more than anything else. I mean, Justin Jefferson's going to get a ton of targets. We all know that. I mean, he just got paid. He is the alpha and a diva, and he is going to get as much work as possible. Addison, he came on last year. He had a big scoring week, the final week of the FFPC regular season. But I'm just worried about him. He's not a guy that I'll own much of this year, and definitely not at this price. I mean, it's a little rich for my blood, all things considered, with the quarterback play we don't know yet. And, Justin Jefferson there, Hockenson is a big question mark at this point. We don't know what's going on there. And they could, move back to the running game when it comes to Jones and Ty Chandler, who we saw emerge at the end of the last season. So to me, Addison's as close to a full fade as I'm going to get. I mean, I don't think I'll have much of them. Maybe throw in a best ball team here and there at the right price, but it definitely won't be 8th round. I mean,
Terp,
too many questions.
You were so right there until you got to talking about Chandler, but you are absolutely dead.
You're not a Ty Chandler guy?
I don't ever want to put my number 2 receiver with an inexperienced and unsuccessful quarterback doing
That's correct
in Minnesota. But you're true with Jefferson. No, I am very much a positive Ty Chandler guy, except he's not going to get on the field. It's all there. It's all Aaron Jones
until he gets hurt. Ask Balky about that.
Players do get hurt, but he was hurt last year. This is a new.
Are we sure that Ty Chandler won't be 1B?
2020.
Sure.
I am. Yeah, I am definitely sure that he won't. And he's a good player. He's fast. He's, he had one game last year.
You have Aaron Jones playoff in your brain.
No, I don't. I have Aaron Jones' career in my brain. Let me tell you something. Aaron Jones, Balky, what running back was he tonight off the board?
Aaron Jones went at running back 16 in the 5th round.
Okay. When he is healthy, he's been the 5, 7, and I think 4 running back scorer in fantasy football. And at 16, I'm willing to take that risk that he can return to those single digits. And they didn't, Ty Chandler was there with the team. This league doesn't reward running backs if they've already got the running back in the house. So it would be very important for this drafter. Did he handcuff Jones with Chandler, or did Chandler go somewhere else?
He might get that opportunity here soon.
Chandler's available.
That's a move that he should make. But believe me, Aaron Jones is the right guy there. And you got the receiver situation together. And if anybody wants to argue the lame prospects that Jefferson can't produce with those quarterbacks, just go back and look what he produced with Nick Mullins.
I will say this about Ty Chandler. It's not like I'm a huge fan of his, because I'm not. However, I do think we need to keep in mind all the significant injuries that Aaron Jones had last year, and the fact that he is going to be turning 30 years old this season. I am very cautious on him. And this is a guy, Ferrell, I love drafting Aaron Jones for the majority of his career. This year, and it has nothing to do with him going to Minnesota. There's a yellow flag out there for me on Aaron Jones this year. That's the way I feel about him.
Well, you must not live in fear, Balky. You may wear a yellow shirt, but I don't want you waving that yellow flag.
Yeah, don't draft in fear. Don't live in fear. That's good advice for anybody, as well as we go through the 9th round here. I'll kick things off here. And Ferrell, I think you and I talked about this on Friday night on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. If we didn't, feel free to chime in. But Terp, what do you make of TJ Hockenson going at the 901, tight end 14, a player that, quite frankly, may not be playing until late October, early November, or maybe, just maybe, not until December?
I've been very outspoken on TJ Hockenson, and I'll definitely even be more outspoken with this pick now, because there's no overall. I mean, you're playing to win your league. That's the goal of this, is to win your league and get the first place prize. At the end of the day, TJ Hockenson might be available later in the season, but by that time, this team with no tight end, as of now, that's going to be ready for the first couple of weeks of the season, might not be in play. So I like what some of these drafters are doing, getting these tight ends early in tonight, especially because, again, second place means nothing. There's no deep runs later in the season when you're 200-300 points behind, which this owner could be just at the position, with Hockenson. I mean, Hawkinson's, in my opinion, not going to be ready for a while. And even if he is, and he comes back week 5, 6, 7, something like that, you don't know what you're going to get. And Kirk Cousins ain't there anymore. We just talked about it. Let's just say it's J.J. McCarthy time right now. You could say you like him, his potential and all that stuff, and that's cool. But, What did you see in Michigan that's going to make you think J.J. McCarthy is going to be a superstar year one? And fantasy football is a year-by-year thing. Could he be a great player? It turns into one, of course. But do you see J.J. McCarthy going out there and just launching the ball around the field? I don't. And to me, if I'm starting a team and I need a tight end, it's not T.J. Hockenson. Not in this format, definitely.
Yeah, I would have reservations on that as well, for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, we've kept him waiting long enough. Let's bring him on right now. The director of content for Player Profiler, also your host for the Sonic Truth, First Class Fantasy, Dynasty Life, and press coverage, all on the Player Profiler Network. You follow him on the X at the OG Fantasy. He is Theo Gremminger, and he is drafting from the 6th spot tonight. Theo, welcome aboard. How do you feel about your team halfway home?
I actually feel pretty good. I draft some teams with Terp as well, so I want to put that on my resume. Terp and I are going to probably take down the best ball tournament this year. But it was a little bit like I start wide receiver in a number of these drafts. I probably would have taken Breece Hall if he was there at the 106 for this format, just knowing the edge those early running backs kind of give you. But I was pretty pleased with it. The Pitts one was a bailout for me. I think if I wasn't able to get Pitts in the middle of that third, I would have felt a lot more uncomfortable, and I maybe would have had to get away from my plan at tight end. And then Allen, to me, was a value right there. I was a little stuck in the middle of the fourth, and I think I started that quarterback run. And then James Cook was a correlation play, and I'm OTC right now, and I'm gonna take him. He's still in my queue, and I like. I mean, I'll talk about it, OTC here. There's one quarterback. There's a couple of running backs that I like right here, but I'm going to take Justin Herbert here. I think this is about as far as we should let him fall.
Yeah, Herbert goes tonight at the 11:06. He is the 18th quarterback off the board. He pairs with Josh Allen. I'll go right to the YouTube chat here for you, Theo. And John Terry, longtime FFPC player, wants to know why you like Swift, or at least why you chose him tonight at the 8:07.
I'm kind of warming to Swift a little bit, and shout out to John Terry, who's a fantastic best ball drafter. And I'm going to see you out in Vegas pretty soon, John. But I like Swift in that range. I don't love him, but I think structurally it made a little bit of sense for me. I had the Deontay Johnson pick before, so I had my third wide receiver there. And then in Swift, I feel like I'm gonna get some ADP value there. I like his situation in Chicago a little bit more than some. I think he can finish inside of the RB2 line, and I think people are kind of treating him as an RB3 at this point. I think he's going to also have some weeks where he catches some passes with Caleb Williams as sort of a safety valve there, despite the competition at wide receiver. I just think for a player like Swift, I'm going to get usable weeks in this sort of best ball format, and I don't want to have to be forced into playing catch up at running back. So I was able to get Swift, and then I was able to get Chase Brown, who's a player that I like a lot at this sort of range. I've talked about him with Terp. I know Terp's on him as well.
Aboard.
But Chase Brown, I think in this sort of a best ball format, I don't have to worry about which weeks to start him. And I think he's going to catch a number of passes out of that backfield. The last healthy season Joe Burrow had, he targeted his running backs like 130 times between Mixon and Pirine. I don't see Zach Moss as that guy. And I think that there's also the fact that Mixon's gone. Also, Tyler Boyd is gone. I think Chase Brown's going to carve himself a weekly role in that passing game, even if Zach Moss is getting, a number of carries. So I like Chase Brown there. I also get a little bit of correlation with him and Jamar Chase, sort of in game flow situations. I think that's going to work out for me. So the team, in this, you have to kind of roll with the punches in this sort of setting. But I don't dislike my team. Let's see how the last 8 rounds go, though.
Theo, what can you talk about Brian Thomas and what you expect the stats at the end of the year to look like? I think I see a path where that player plays much better in the second half of the season than he does the first, rather than hit the wall like some early players in their career do. Your thoughts on what he can actually contribute number-wise?
Well, it's interesting because you saw the role that Calvin Ridley had, finishing as wide receiver 18, all of those end zone targets that Ridley had, all of those red zone targets that Ridley had. And then I look at Brian Thomas. I think his career could parallel DK Metcalf, where he's a big physical outside receiver, athletically gifted. And Ferrell, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's the second half of the season. I think he could be the kind of guy that could rattle off a number of big time weeks over that second half of the season. And that's sort of what matters. And it's a balance where I have those 3 wide receivers with, a lot of expected points and value where I'm able to kind of weather the storm and maybe take a slow start. But I don't know if it's going to be quite as slow as some think. I think Thomas is a very gifted player, and I'm interested to see how he does. I hope he crushes now that he's on my team here.
The Harry Snowman loves himself some Theo Gremminger tonight. Love the start for Theo. Great value on Josh Allen. Nice stack with Cook. And BTJ could be a steal, as Theo was just alluding to. You're on deck right now. I do have one more question from the chat that we'll get to in a little bit. But just to recap Theo's team, as he is on deck, Josh Allen and Justin Herbert are the quarterbacks. James Cook, DeAndre Swift, and Chase Brown in the backfield. Wide receivers are Jamar Chase, Marvin Harrison, Deontay Johnson, and Brian Thomas Jr. And then Kyle Pitts and David Njoku are the tight ends. Theo, you are on the clock right now after Darnell Mooney just went to Hoyt and Brown. What are you thinking here at the 12:07?
Well, here at the 12:07, I could use another running back, and I'm going to take a pick that I'm not really that excited about taking, but I think he's going to fall in the end zone more times than we'd like. And I'm just going to take some Zeke. I'm going to take old man Zeke. He'll be this year's Gus Edwards. I think his scoring will be a lot like Gus was last year. I think it's going to be a Zeke scores a bunch of touchdowns. We've seen it for several seasons in a row where one of these guys that we're not excited to draft scores a bunch of rushing touchdowns. Last year, Raheem Mostert's different. I'm not expecting that. But I think Gus Edwards gave us borderline RB2 production. The season before, we saw it with Jamal Williams. These guys get in these situations where they're on a plus offense, in a situation where the guy could just score some touchdowns here. And again, in best ball, I don't have to worry about which weeks to start Zeke. I'll just enjoy it when he falls in the end zone. But Terp, I don't want to get labeled as
all things considered. I don't think Zeke is a bad pick this year. I said he was a trash bucket. I used every name possible at him last year. But this year, with the running back room being what it is, I mean, it's not the worst pick in the world. I'm not just saying it's because you. Yeah. I do own some Zeke this year because, I mean, at this Terp,
spot, no one believes that. No one believes that you think that, and no one is.
I was very outspoken with him against him last year. I pretty much literally called him every bad name in the book. This year is a little bit different.
And Theo, he just. The realization of you picking Zeke here has just made the reality that you draft teams with Terp the most enjoyable thing I've heard all day. So thank you so much.
Oh, no, absolutely.
The thing is, nice to my guy.
I mean, the thing is with Elliott, I mean, there is some upside here. We're talking about the 12th round. We're talking about an elite offense that is going to move the football. I think there's a lot to like about him at that spot. It's all about where you're getting him, and I think Theo got him in a really good spot tonight. Theo, I don't. It's too high up on the board, so I can't post it right now. But Ryan in the YouTube chat wanted you to talk a little bit about the upside of Justin Herbert here as you grab him as quarterback 18 at the 11:06 this evening.
Well, he gives me the ability to potentially go with a 2-quarterback build. I don't think Justin Herbert's going to be as bad as people think. It's sort of a life finds a way mentality with these players of his caliber, where the market is betting on him as like this kind of mid to low end QB2. We've seen nothing but positives with him throughout his career. Do they have the horses at running back that they're going to be able to emulate 2019 Baltimore and just pound the football over and over again? That team in 2019 set the NFL record in rushing production with Gus Edwards and Kamani Vidal and J.K. Dobbins. Do they have that juice, or are they going to have to air it out a little bit more than maybe the market is not alluding to? In like a 350 or a main event, would I be comfortable with Justin Herbert as my QB1 right now? Probably not, but I think he's a really solid target in those formats when you want to pair him with a guy that might be slow out the gate, like maybe a Caleb Williams Herbert team. I'd be comfortable building a team like that. Certainly as a QB2 in that format, I'd be fine. But I think structurally, the buys match up well with him and Josh Allen, and I'm able to sort of potentially go with a 2 QB build here instead of having to grab that 3rd QB, which I think might give me an edge in these final 7 rounds.
Theo, in a vacuum, do you like, in a format like this, 20-team best ball slim for FFPC, do you normally, like, if you had your druthers, would you rather just have a 2-quarterback team or a 3-quarterback team? Which one makes you feel a little bit, and I know it depends upon the rest of the team, but if you had your druthers and you could pick one or the other, which one are you more comfortable with?
I think it depends a lot on the rest of the build, because especially if I take the first QB off the board, then I would tend to gravitate towards a 2 QB build. Most of the time, though, I think in a 20-round format, you're going to want that third quarterback, but not necessarily so. I think you could kind of be fluid with this one. I like some of my 2 QB builds, and I've liked some of my 3 QB builds. I think you can go both ways. I wish I could take a stronger stand, and I definitely just got sniped on some Ray Davis right there, which was not a great outcome.
Your great Buffalo stack.
Yeah, that one hurt a little bit. I think for me here, OTC, I think I can shut it down at tight end if I take. I don't really love doing this.
23 tight ends off the board right now as plays this pick here with 30 seconds on the clock.
I don't think a tight end is going to come back to me at this point. I think I could go with 2 potential tight ends here. I'm going to go with the more boring one and structure. You know what here, Terp? I'm going to push him up a little bit. I'm going to push my guy up.
Exciting one.
I'm going to take the exciting one. I can't take the boring one. I got to get a little unknown upside with my guy. I can't do that. After the Zeke pick, I could not go with. I'm not going to say his name. He's going to go in the next couple picks, but a lot more boring than Ben Sinnott.
So Theo, because I know you are, if you're not the president of the Ben Sinnott fan club, you're at least treasurer or vice president of it. Is that the most on-brand pick that you have made tonight in this draft?
I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is pretty on brand for me at this point in terms of like actual money. I've done what I can to get him in my FFPC Dynasty leagues. I've drafted him in the second round a number of times. I'm team Marvin Harrison Jr. over Drake London. I had this conversation with Terp when we streamed another draft we did where we were talking about those 2 guys. And I'm just Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he's going to be the next Arizona Cardinal to catch double-digit touchdowns. I think he's going to do it his first year. I think he's got that profile. We haven't seen a Cardinal do it since 2009. And I think Marvin Harrison Jr. gets it right out the gate. I think he's going to be fantastic. And I think this is the last year we're going to see him going in the second round of any of these FFPC drafts. I think he's a locked-in first rounder for many years to come. And I think he's going to return wide receiver 1 value. So I think he's very on brand for me. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the rest of the draft, not a whole lot of guys that I've taken like every single draft.
Right.
But a couple guys that I like.
One of the guys that we always like popping on this program is Theo Gremminger, the director of content over at Player Profiler. Listen to him or watch him on the Sonic Truth, First Class Fantasy, Dynasty Life, as well as press coverage. Follow him on the X at the OG Fantasy. Theo, enjoy the rest of the draft. Enjoy drafting season. I'll see you in Vegas, my friend.
Yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for having me.
That is Theo Gremminger joining the show tonight as we are moving through into the 14th round. And I want to bring on another pro here who has been patiently waiting in the green room, a guy I've hosted some shows with over the years, a guy that is no stranger to this format, who has many, many best balls in his portfolio already this season. And quite frankly, I could have said that in February, and he would have had many, many best balls in his portfolio already. From Sharp Football Analysis, please welcome on the X Best Ball NFL, Todd Burros, drafting from the 12 spot tonight. Todd, you just said in off air here that you and Theo have been sniping each other tonight.
Well, no, we did a dynasty together, and he took Ray Davis, and then in Hardway, I took Ray Davis. Both of us took him early. So I like the fact that Theo is on him because he is my most owned running back this year. He's been slipping on underdog lately. So I know you guys are going to want to talk about a couple different things. Why don't you hit me with the double tight end start?
That was my first question, man.
No problem there.
You're in the 12 spot. Terp says that while we've normally seen no tight ends go on average in the first round, he thinks that it's a trend that's going to come up as we get closer to the live events at Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas, that the teams at that 11-12 spot are going to start taking tight end. You're already doing it here with Laporte and McBride. How much did you consider doing that prior to the draft starting?
The 12 sucks this year, worse than most years. right? So you need to be aggressive. And so the biggest negatives of the 12 spot is too much time goes between your pick and the draft can go against you. So I want a Terp hit on a couple of the reasons for it. One, I mean, value-wise, I have the tight ends very close to who else I could have taken. I could have taken Marvin Harrison instead of McBride with the second pick, but I wanted to try and get a tight end run going so better wide receivers would make it back to me. And so my strategy was to go 2 tight ends, and then I don't have to worry about tight end. The one thing in the FFPC that's most fluid when you're dealing with people who don't play the format regularly, like some of the other pros or Joes, whatever. I always get them mixed up. Is tight end. So I wanted to get that off my plate so I didn't have to worry about it. I knew I was going to come back running back. And I got sniped on Richardson in the 6th Terp. That's why I went to Aaron Jones, Ramondre. So the other thought with taking the 2 running backs there, because I know that was Terp's other question for me because I was listening, is that if you're doing 0 running back, there's a real sweet spot that kind of ends for me with Ray Davis. There's a couple guys okay after that. But I again, being 24 picks away,
it's tough.
If it was a normal best ball where I know I'm doing, a number of them, I would have taken McLaurin. I'm very high on Terry McLaurin this year. I think he is, out of all the guys who might end up being the number 1 or 2 wide receiver on the year, he is the one that goes the latest. We saw what Jaden Daniels did with, both Thomas and Neighbors. He's got the arm that McLaurin has never had before. But I just needed that, it wasn't enough of a difference to take a chance that there'd be a huge running back run. And now my running back room, Jones, Stevenson, Warren, Eckler, and Charbonnet, I mean, that room has a lot of floor and a lot of ceiling. I get the worry on Terp that you mentioned on Aaron Jones, but he also doesn't have a lot of tread on the tires. He's never been a heavy usage guy, and he goes to a better offense, and he goes to a faster track with better weather than he's ever had before.
That's fair.
So that's why I like Mr. Jones this year. I like Ramondre. I think Ramondre and Zamir White could both be the Josh Jacobs of this year.
Thank you.
That guy that we think it's a bad offense, but he's the clear number 1. Yes, Gibson's there, but Ramondre has pass game chops too. Very high on my, and I love Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren's another guy, great floor. And who says he might not with the new coach? As much as we don't like Arthur Smith, if he falls in love with him, Jaylen Warren could be the 1A, not the 1B.
It's true. It's 100% true. Getting back to your 4th round pick here, Todd, you take DJ Moore there. Now, as the draft progressed, it was entirely possible for you, and I guess you couldn't have known this, but it was entirely possible for you to grab Keenan Allen in the 6th round. It was entirely possible for you to grab Rome Odunze in the 8th round. You did get Caleb Williams in the 9th. Why? Or maybe it was just maybe you don't have a strong feeling on the Bears receivers, and Moore just happened to be a nice value there. But I look at the Moore Williams stack. Was that the most valuable one that you see in Chicago when you consider draft capital of how you could have gotten Allen or Odunze cheaper?
I think DJ Moore is a superstar. And I think, Keenan Allen's a great player, but he, as you get older and you start getting regularly injured, sometimes you lose your explosion. But in general, remember, this is not a tournament. But even in tournament best ball, the studies have shown that taking 2 early wide receivers with a quarterback more times than not are not optimal. So in something like this, I just want my A guy. And I felt, what it came down to was more, I took Metcalf, him more over Metcalf, who I really have a little bit higher, Metcalf. But I wanted a guy that I thought, because I knew I wasn't going to go wide receiver for a little while, I wanted a guy who I thought had a good floor and ceiling, and that's DJ Moore. And, I think running back, you're going to start seeing bad running backs come off the board. Bad. I've planned this draft, and it's working out so far. I got sniped on Josh Downs. I got sniped on, Derek Capps has sniped me 3 times. I can't remember the last draft I got sniped 3 times. He got Wicks, he got Downs. There's a lot of late wide receivers that I like more than, these these guys that can really give you, some points. So,
and you got 2 very good ones with Davis and Wan'Dale Robinson, who I think is one of the most undervalued guys right now in fantasy football.
Yeah, I agree. And watching that Hard Knocks, the Giants, I remember that they had signed the Oakland guard, but I had forgotten they also got Runyon. So now you've got an all-pro left tackle. You've got, I'm up. Hold on.
Todd, while you consider your picks, let me just recap, or just let everybody know what Todd is doing here from the 12 spot. So right now on the clock at the 15-12, he locked up his tight ends early, Laporte and McBride. He got Kyler Murray and Caleb Williams sort of in the mid-rounds as his top 2 quarterbacks. The running backs are Aaron Jones, Ramondre Stevenson, Jalen Warren, Austin Eckler, Zach Charbonnet. And then the receivers are Malik Neighbors, DJ Moore, Cortland Sutton, Gabe Davis, Wan'Dale Robinson. And Todd, you've now added a pair of rookies to that wide receiver room a little bit as well. Why were Troy Franklin and Jalen Polk the right picks for you there?
Troy Franklin was my 4th favorite tape in the class. And he's reunited with he's reunited with his shower buddy, as the ETR guys would say. And I like the guy. I think he's a good football player who had a bad combine, and then after the combine you find out that he was sick. So I normally don't take a lot of Polk. I won't say why, because but my most owned player is still out there, and if he comes back, I'll grab him. But look, one of the things that I've really adjusted over the last few years is I was taking too many vets and not enough rookies, especially rookies with explosive upside. And if you look at my team, Neighbors, DJ Moore's still young. I took the 2 young tight ends instead of Kelsey, which I was surprised you guys didn't mention that I skipped over Kelsey. No. These young guys, we kind of know what they are, and what they are is fine. But boy, if they hit that next gear, that supercharges your teams.
Todd, I had a question for you. You took a Ramondre Stevenson in front of 2 players that I would have preferred. One younger and one older, that being Walker and Kamara. I'm just curious what your thoughts are, not why you picked Stevenson, but what your expectations are on Walker and especially Kamara this year.
Well, Kamara, they've got a lot of problems with that offensive line. Kamara showed signs of aging. So I ended up getting a guy who profiles just like Kamara a long time later in Eckler, right? Why is Eckler going so much later than Kamara when they're basically the same player? Good pass catching back, and Eckler's in a better situation probably. And then I took Charbonnet instead of Walker. I like Charbonnet. He's got that pass catching role. I like Walker a lot. But I really feel like Ramondre, like I said, could be that Jacobs. And I'm a lot less worried about Gibson in the backfield than I am Charbonnet with Walkers. But
in this format, would Walker and Charbonnet make sense to you? If you knew Charbonnet would have been there, would that have done anything for your Walker in front of Stevenson?
I just haven't been drafting Walker this year.
Okay.
I take him some because of my volume, but and I liked him a lot. I liked him almost as much as Breece Hall tape-wise coming out.
Yeah.
But I think that team is going to be a lot more pass happy than they've been. Under Pete Carroll is gone, boys. It's a new world. You got 3 great wide receivers and a good pass catching.
Last year. He was at Washington.
And Pete was a great defensive mind. He always got the most out of his defense. What if that defense goes backwards and they're behind a lot? So a 2-down back, I like Ramondre's pass catching chops, and I don't think Walker's going to catch too many passes. But if you tell me you like Walker more than Ramondre, then you're with most of the drafters who's taking him first, and I can certainly see it.
We're talking with Todd Burros from Sharp Football Analysis here. 4 straight receivers in the 13th through 17th round, or 13th through 16th round here. Todd, when you look at your squad here, you feel like you're done at quarterback, or maybe you got one more in you in these last 4 picks?
Well, no, he's gone. Daniel Jones is gone. I don't mind this. I don't mind the stack without. You never say never when you get this late, because you really, especially in this isn't a tournament team, right? I don't need to take super risks late. I want guys who are going to give me points. And if a third quarterback I think is going to give me more points than anyone else on the board, then I'm certainly going to consider him.
Todd, the thing that I think you have made the adjustment for this year is the youth. You're focusing on youth. Do you feel like you will take that to a different level, an even stronger level, when you're going up against thousands of teams rather than just 11 teams?
I mean, you're seeing me draft pretty much all the guys that I've been overweight on in this draft. Kyler, I'm even weight on, but I am over on maybe not the tight ends, but in this format, again, that was a specific thing that I'm doing because I had the 12 spot, but the rest of my team is all guys that I'm overweight on, that I believe in. So I think I've mentioned a couple ways that you want to supercharge tournament teams that I'm not doing today as much. So yes, I will supercharge a tournament team a little bit more than a contained league, but ultimately I'm still drafting football players that I think can succeed.
A guy who has been very successful in fantasy football in the FFPC and everywhere has been Todd Burros. Continue to follow him on the X at BestBallNFL and check out all his work over at Sharp Football Analysis. Todd, once again, always fun chopping it up with you, getting into the mind of the guy who pushed the tight ends up tonight and is drafting a lot of youth. We love to see it, and good luck the rest of the way, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Brother.
That is absolutely pleasure's all on this side of the computer screen for sure. Todd Burros dropping by as we are moving through the mid-17th round. We've had a lot of great guests on. Why stop now, guys? I think let's just keep this line of great guests going, and we want to talk. Theo Gremminger was on earlier, a guy who has participated in this competition as a Joe, and now the last few years he's been participating as a pro. And I think there's another person that you could label a former Joe, never in this format, never in this tournament before, but a woman I've competed against with, have immense respect for. You check out all her analysis over at the Fantasy and Frames YouTube channel. You follow her on X at Stacy_Perez83. Please welcome aboard Stacy Perez, who is picking from the 8th spot tonight. Stacy, welcome in.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
It's going good. Better question is, how's it going with your team from the 8th slot tonight?
Oh man, I was sweating there a few times. When Theo was on and he was deciding, which tight end to take. And he took Senate. I tell you, my heart was in my throat there because I was waiting for Otten to fall back to me to make it work with my team. So man, this is tough. Everybody in here is just so good. So many sharks. It's been something tonight.
I have a question. I'd like to get started. A question with Stacy. Stacy, I think. Well, don't be scared. Now, were you trying to gain favor with Terp by drafting Devonta Smith in front of DK Metcalf, or do you just believe it? We just had a gentleman on right now that broke down the fact he referred to the Seattle Seahawks in 2024 as being pass happy. I just like a number 1 Metcalf a little better than a number 2 Smith. Your thoughts on that pick?
Yeah, so I actually like both of them, and it really I had both of them, and I was trying to decide, okay, who am I going to take here? And honestly, I really liked Devonta Smith. My plan was actually to kind of try to grab Hurts too after that, and of course that obviously didn't work out. But I like both players a lot. I think they both have a lot to offer, especially in this format. But ultimately, I think I just kind of decided on Devonta Smith this year. I think, Philly has a little bit better of a season than, they kind of ended with last year. And I just kind of, I feel like I know what to expect with that. They've had some, changes in Seattle. So, DK Metcalf is still going to get his.
You got your guy.
I did. I just went
good for you, darling.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. And a very good one.
Thank you.
Yeah, anytime you take an Eagle Terp, I shouldn't say anytime, but 95% of the time, that's going to get the Dave Terp stamp of approval on this program for
1,000%.
You talk about all the sharks in here, and well, actually, before we get to that, I'll ask you that in a second. But you were just on the clock and definitely made the pick of Malachi Corley. Is this pandering to Ferrell Elliott tonight, making one of his favorite picks tonight? Or was this the fact of like, hey, I really like this rookie receiver that could be the number 2 in New York, more often than not this season, as you grab him at the 1805? Tell us a little bit about why Corley was the proper choice for you there, Stacy.
So Ferrell, I didn't know that you were a big Corley fan, but obviously you have great taste because, the Yak King, as he is so called, one of my favorite rookies coming out. I just think that he's kind of like a, going to be used as like a baby Debo almost, kind of in that way where you can use him as, as a running back, you can kind of use him as a wide receiver. I just like all that he brings to the table. And Balky, from what I hear, he's living in Aaron Rodgers' guest house. So that's all I need to hear is that those guys are getting on the same page. We know how Rodgers typically doesn't love rookies, but if they are staying together and they seem like they're that close, then that is really all I need to hear.
Yeah, Rodgers has been pretty effusive in his praise. I remember who was the guy? Guys, help me out on this. I know I should know this because he was a Packer. The guy out of Clemson that they picked in the 3rd round a few years ago, he washed out of the league. He's playing in the UFL now. Rodgers. Was it not Armani Rodgers? What was his name?
It is
Armani Rodgers,
I think.
It was something like that. Man, if you hadn't asked me, I would know the guy's name, but you asked me and now I can't think of it.
I'm gonna look it up right now.
It's definitely Amari Rodgers.
Yeah, yes, Amari
Rodgers. That's it. Mm-hmm. And I know when that love between Corley and Rodgers was going on X, Rodgers put something out like, I wish it would have been this way when I was in Green Bay with Rodgers, and it didn't work out that way. But it is working out that way in New York. The question I did want to ask you, Stacy, and you talked about having these 6 pros in here and 6 really accomplished FFPC Joes as well. Yeah. How much of your normal, quote unquote, normal fantasy football strategy did you adjust knowing that a lot of different things could happen in this draft tonight and they were going to be wildly unpredictable?
Yeah. So I think it's something that, I heard, and I'll take from my friend Bob Harris, and I'm sure he's going to be on at some point later in these drafts, is that, you can't be a slave to ADP, right? And particularly here, and it's tough, because this is a tournament where you don't have really ADP to look at. So, but if we're just looking at, where guys have been going historically and, best ball tournaments like this, you just really can't be a slave to it. And you've got to go after the players that you want, because if you don't, they're not going to be there. Right. Like I would have loved to have Sam Laporta if Todd hadn't snatched him in the 1st round. I just felt like St. Brown came to me. So I was like, well, I can't grab Laporta there. But if St. Brown hadn't fallen to me, I absolutely would have taken Laporta there. And it probably would have been a smidge early, but somebody's not coming back to you. And if you want that player, go get them.
Did you kind of make up your mind that you were going to grab an elite tight end? If not in the 1st round, Stacy, you're for sure going to have one by the 2nd?
Absolutely. That was kind of my plan, you know, knowing that I was going to be drafting out of the 8 spot. This is a tight end premium format. So I just thought to myself, you know, I really want to do a bully tight end here in some way or some fashion. If it falls to me and it makes sense, you know, I don't want to reach too much, but if I can make it work, that was exactly what I wanted to do. And I was so pleased that I got Kincaid and Ingram there.
You've been going Kincaid in a lot of your drafts. Is he a complete difference maker for you? Or Balky, I can't see the board as to who fell behind him. I suppose Andrews is there and a few others. Is Kincaid, is he part of that group of your top 3 tight ends? Is he going to perform as well as Kelsey and Laporta and those guys?
You know, I think he could. I think there's an absolute chance that he could do that. I think he could come away as a #1 pass catcher in Buffalo right now where things are so fluid. You know, you've got Curtis Samuel there, Keon Coleman, you know, rookie. I don't see why, you know, at the end of the season, I don't think it would be a surprise at all if Dalton Kincaid comes away.
Well, I'm proud that you've got 2 producing tight ends on your team, because let me tell you, the cream of the crop of the tight ends is going off the board right now. These are some names, man.
Some great names going off the board right
Lord,
now.
this is a horror movie.
True dust buckets right here.
19th round, my goodness.
Daniel Bellinger, Zach Ertz. I mean, them names ain't going to keep. They're going to keep you up at night.
It's a lot of purple. I'm kind of glad that I grabbed Kate Otten when I did. Colby Parkinson was actually one that I was looking forward to getting, but I got sniped on him.
Stacy, how we were talking about Todd Burros before. How much did he hit the fact that he took 2 tight ends affect your choice in the 3rd round? Again, being the second team out of 12 to grab 2 tight ends. And in a spot when nearly, you know, more than half the league didn't have any, you went out and got your second.
Yeah, I just really felt, you know, Theo taking Kyle Pitts right there too, because it was between Pitts and Ingram for me, honestly, those 2 guys. And so that kind of made my decision a little bit easier when Pitts went off the board. But I was just really, you know, kind of like, this is going to be, I'm committed to this. This is what I want to do. And it looks like it's going to work out. So I'm going to go ahead and grab it. And then I think it just kind of pushed everybody around a little bit, you know, with those receivers kind of going a little bit further, you know, with Debo and Cooper Kupp and Ayuk and everything coming out towards the end of the 3rd, which sometimes you see those guys going a lot higher. So, you know, and in this format, you know, I can start both of those guys. It's not like we're working with a 1 tight end, you know, roster here. You know, I'm going to be able to start both of those guys potentially every week until they're by in, I think, week 12.
Stacey, Khalif Raymond comes off the board to you in the 19th round. Can you tell us a little bit about why he is a solid dart throw here for you?
Yeah, so I've got Goff and I've got Amon-Ra St. Brown here, so just wanted to fill out a little bit more Lions for me. I love their offense this year. I think they were great last year. I think they're going to be great again this year. It's a high volume offense. You know, he's a guy that's going to be on the field for them, and he's going to have the opportunity to grab some balls, especially in the 19th round here. You know, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for upside, and I'm looking for high volume offenses where players are still available. So that's kind of what made me want to take Khalif Raymond. And I've done it a few times when I've been able to get that Lions stack. He just seems like a player that kind of makes sense for me in a best ball format.
Stacey, go ahead, Ferrell. I'm sorry.
Stacey, pal Rick Ross, a good buddy of ours from the KFFC, just texted me he would like to buy a piece of your team since you're in business with all his Detroit Lions. But in every draft that I've seen, Rome Odunze is your guy.
Yes.
I want some numbers. Just give me some numbers as to what he's going to do with this quarterback. And I think
I have a follow-up after that.
Yeah, well, let Terp have
after she speaks, I'm going to go on the Rome Odunze bandwagon the other way.
Oh gosh. Well, Ferrell, I was told there would be no math here tonight. You know,
I want numbers, Ryan. I've got to have numbers because
you always ask the numbers question. I just don't understand why. Nobody knows numbers.
Let the guest answer the question before you start spewing negatives about this talented young receiver, because Stacy knows something and everybody listening needs to find out.
Well, okay. So with Rome Odunze, Ferrell, what kind of number you're gonna have to tell me what kind of numbers you're looking for?
I would like to know receiving yards and possibly touchdowns. I want a crystal ball. One of them needs to be crystal.
Stacy, throw catches in there as well. But best ballpark that you can.
Oh my goodness, guys. The numbers.
Well, how about this?
While you're at it, throw fantasy points per game.
Oh my
no, don't
guys, you're making it too tough.
I'm
This is
just
not
kidding.
calculus. Catches, yards, touchdowns. Go, Stacy.
Yeah, I mean, I could foresee
Those
him.
are not numbers, Stacy.
They're not, but I'm going to get there. So I could foresee him coming on a little bit later in the season, which is why I took him when I did, right? I feel like he's, going to have a little bit of a time to adjust. He's a rookie. He's got a rookie quarterback. But I could see him getting a handful of touchdowns. I'm going to use measurements here. How about that?
Whose hands?
What?
Whose hands to make
Whose
this?
hands?
A guy like Terp who's got big old claw hands, or a guy like you got little hands.
I got little hands. I don't have Darnell Washington Jr. hands for sure. No. I think he could walk away with, I don't know, let's put a number. Let's maybe 5 touchdowns. That seems, I'm gonna go with 5. 5 sounds good. I'm just gonna ballpark that. Good. Like I said, guys, you're asking a lawyer to do math here on the fly, and that is just I went to law school, not math school. So
my downside with him is I love the player.
You had to figure out the room number in law school. They said this is where the class is, and you had to go there.
They just point me in the right direction. That's it.
Give me how many catches, and I'll let you off the hook. How many catches?
Oh gosh. Oh, Ferrell, I don't know.
Stacy, it's an hour show, and we've already gone over.
I know. We might go a little bit longer if you want me to give you specific numbers. I was not prepared.
Tell you what, post it in the chat room.
Okay.
Well, Stacy, let's do this real quick. Over or under Rome Odunze receiving yards this year, I'm going to set it at 750. What do you take?
I'm going to go under, but slightly. I think it's just slightly under.
And then if I say over under catches this year, I put it at 45. What do you take? Over or under?
Let's see. Let me see. Let's do. You said 45.
45.
I'm gonna go over.
Over. There you go. So we're dialed in. We're dialed into Odunze. Terp, what was why are you waving goodbye to the Odunze bandwagon rather than jumping on it?
I won't be totally off him, but I love the player. The situation's obviously the one that's the question. Rookie quarterback, number 1. Number 2, the new OC. Didn't we just see this song and dance with JSN last year? I know JSN was hurt to start the season. He has 2 established receivers ahead of him in DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. I know everybody has the same argument when they're betting on him later in the season. If Keenan Allen gets hurt, but what if he doesn't? And we also don't know that Caleb Williams is the guy. I mean, we obviously know he's going to be a starter, but we don't know if he's going to be the superstar that some people think he is. Mm-hmm. So to me, Odunze, I mean, he's not the worst value right now, I guess you could say. He's not a guy I'll have a ton of, but I feel like with Shane Waldron as the OC, is he going to change overnight? I mean, you just saw it last year with 3 very good receivers with Metcalf, Lockett, and JSN. I know JSN got hurt early and it kind of messed the season up a little bit, but I don't know. I think they're going to be more of a running type of team with, DJ Moore type of being the guy and, Keenan Allen getting mixed in. I think Odunze is going to have his moments. In best ball, I think he's a better pick. In redraft, I mean, you're just playing a little bit of Russian roulette.
I would say the other thing to keep in mind in this format, one team is going to win. You can finish second and you will get nothing for that. Nothing. So to take a guy like Odunze, as Stacy did in the 8th round, as her number 5 receiver, Terp, all the things you're saying are right. If Keenan Allen stays healthy, if the offense is not to the level where we think it is, if Odunze remains the number 3 receiver, it won't kill Stacy's team.
Our structure makes a lot of sense.
Right.
For the pick.
Right. But if Odunze is a hit, and if he does become the number 2 receiver, or maybe
she will win this league,
then that is a massive hit, and that's the type of player you want to be taking when it's first or nothing. So I totally understand the pick there for you, Stacy. And
you have some very talented spokesmen working on your behalf, Stacy.
Yeah. Well,
but no one has a bigger heart for you than I do. Those are your spokesmen, but I'm holding your heart.
We will continue to follow you on the X, Stacy, at Stacy_Perez83, and we will check out everything that you're doing over at the Fantasy and Frames YouTube channel. Hit us up Thursday nights. Is that when you guys normally go live? Yeah. I know you go live several times a week, but
yeah, Thursday nights at 9. We're doing the draft show right now, so we're doing every single week. We're doing something different just to kind of show everybody how many different ways there are to play fantasy that are out there.
And one of the ways to play fantasy is trying to win the FFPC Pros versus Joe's League. Did you do it tonight, Stacy? We'll find out in January for sure. Thank you so much for being a part of the broadcast tonight. Congrats on a great team, and good luck in drafting season. I'll see you in Kentucky.
Yes, thanks, guys. Have a good night, everybody.
That is Stacy Perez, ladies and gentlemen, hanging out with us. And with that, guys, we are done with our first draft. Now, I did want to revisit Team 3, and I'll scroll back up a little bit so we can show this, because somebody in the YouTube chat said, what do we think about Team 3? I think it was Acuna Jr. who's actually going to be drafting as a Joe coming up later on in the Pros vs. Joe's competition. But when we look at Team 3, a team that started off with 4 straight running backs, guys. I know I can't show you the whole board here, but if we can look at least through the first 14 rounds, your thoughts, Terp, I'll throw it to you first. Your thoughts on how Robert Trends did after going with Robinson, Barkley, Etienne, and Jacobs.
I think they recovered very well, especially at the receiver position. Quarterbacks, no issues whatsoever. The issue is going to come down to the tight ends. I mean, the tight ends are very, very weak, very, very limited upside. I mean, I like Noah Fant this year. I like Chig this year. I don't like Zach Ertz, and I don't like Daniel Bellinger, but the tight ends are going to be where this team survives or dies. This could be a potential league winner if everything falls right. I like what they did at the receiver position, 2 rookie receivers who have potential to be the number 1 option in the offense with Coleman, with McConkey. I'm a big Calvin Ridley fan this year. Dak is very, very, very undervalued right now in drafts. What changed from last year? He's getting drafted. To me, he should be going around about a round or 2 higher. But besides that, I love Will Levis, Daniel Jones. I don't mind. The running back room after the top 4 is a little suspect with J.K. Dobbins. But when you take 4 running backs right off the jump, I mean, what do you expect? Your running back room, you got to pretty much ignore for a while.
Yeah. Just because you take 4 running backs doesn't mean that you need to ignore the tight end position, and that's that's the issue.
That's going to be the issue with this team.
And you burn 4 picks. You burn 4 picks at tight ends. All of guys, hell, I might like Bellinger. I don't know. But
very limited upside. Like, what's the ceiling?
You burn 4 picks on this, and the ceiling. The ceiling is in Tennessee, I suppose. That's your best player at the position. But yeah, it's just be conscious. You could have waited on quarterback a little and got a tight end, perhaps. But man, he did some good things with Prescott and Cooks, and then locking up 2 potential Buffalo Bill receivers that could put up big numbers.
It always seems like there's a tight end that's drafted between 10 and 15, tight end 10, 10, tight end 15 every year, that shoots up to being a top 5 tight end. Now, who that is, I don't know. But if you look at what Robert Trends did, he waited until tight end 20 to take his first tight end. And I think I'm kind of with you guys. Well, I know I'm with you guys on
this. There's always that guy that comes out of nowhere that is, 1 or 2 guys that are way down in the draft to come up and be a top 10, tight end. We see it every year. So could he have one of those guys? I mean, anything's possible, but I'd probably give it a 1% chance.
Yeah, I just don't see it with I mean, maybe Okonkwo with as much as the Titans want to throw this year. I mean, that would probably be my pick if it's going to be one of those 4. That would probably be my pick. You have the corpse of Zach Ertz, who apparently looks fast in practice, but
a player like Jelani Woods would have been a good spot for this team.
For sure.
Somebody with some upside, some juice, young player.
You could have taken a 5th tight end that's not going to
Ertz and Bellinger, they really don't. Lucas Kroll, I mean, if you believe the hype in Denver, if he's going to be the guy at the tight end position, if Dulcich ain't back, would have been a guy that has, some juice, a player like.
Colby Parkinson in the 17th, I think.
But I don't know if I would ever classify him as a guy with juice. I mean, he's serviceable, but he would have been better than Zach Ertz and
There's 7 tight ends on the roster. In the round. I wonder if they all got
when you start off 4 running backs and you don't give yourself any flexibility, you miss all the value at running back, which there always falls, and then you're pretty much just one position is going to be really, really weak.
Yeah, if you're going to go strong at any one position, go ahead and cover the others. Have a plan for the others.
And that's the dangers of robust RB in the FFPC. But wow, guys, what a first night it was. We saw some fireworks here. Thanks to Todd Burros, Stacy Perez pushing up those tight ends. We saw Scott Hoyt double up on quarterbacks here with Chase Brown, his teammate, his drafting mate with Stroud and Burrow. That was fun. It was a wild night. We saw 6 consecutive tight ends go off the board in the 18th and 19th round. I can't imagine what's in store for us on night 2, which we will do tomorrow night.
I think this is a pros-dominated draft.
Really? You think so? You think the pros dominated it?
Did very, very well in this draft.
Are you kidding, Terp? Those guys are
They would be my top 3 teams, pros.
Okay. What about I could see it. I could see it. I don't necessarily know if I agree with it, but I would say this. I think this was an impressive showing by the pros, who have not won the overall of this competition, which is since 2017.
Very, very surprising, all things considered.
Right. So it was fun. Guys, excuse me. I will let you go. I will talk with both of you tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Check out Ferrell's Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at kffsc.com. Register for the main event draft live in Cincinnati or Louisville or online from the comfort of your own home. But we want you to come to Louisville. We want you to come.
Terp, if you come this year, we'll let you draft Zeke.
Yeah. Is that sweetening the pot for you, Terp?
Yeah.
You could have said a lot of things right now that might have juiced it up.
Come on,
Zeke isn't one of them.
We'll make sure everybody leaves Zeke alone. We'll get Zeke and Barkley.
I appreciate that.
At Dave Terp on the X. Terp, great job. Ferrell, great job. We will talk with you gentlemen tomorrow night.
See you
guys tomorrow.
All right. We'll see you. That is Dave Terpoilli. That is Ferrell Elliott hopping aboard tonight on the coverage of night 1 of the FFPC Pros versus Joes Challenge. I want to thank both those guys. I want to thank tonight's guests, Greg Mistretta, Scott Hoyt, Theo Gremminger, Todd Burros, and Stacy Perez. Coming up tomorrow, we will be live again for night number 2. It's the IPA League. We did the Seltzer League last night. We do the IPA League tonight. The Drows in that draft tomorrow that will start at 9 p.m. Eastern. Ron Chan, the duo of Craig Magnuson and Tim Marks, who are former HSFF Hour guests. Rob Vieira, another former guest of the show, long time. Been on a lot of shows with the FFPC. Bill Van Ormer is going to be drafting too. You saw him on the HSFF Hour in the RotoViz High Stakes Slowdown probably last year. So he'll be coming on, one of the greatest FFPC drafters out there, high stakes drafters out there, in Glenn Lowy. And then Ryan Cleary also being making up the Joes tomorrow night. The pro side of it, from Draft Sharks, we have Shane Hallam. Also from Draft Sharks, we have Jared Smola drafting tomorrow night, who has given his buddy Matt Schauf some love, who drafted from the 2-hole tonight. He will be picking from the 3rd spot tomorrow. Sean Siegel and Ben Gretsch, the Stealing Bananas podcast hosts, will be drafting tomorrow. Derek Brown from Fantasy Pros as well. Scott Connor from Dynasty and Chill. Of course, Dynasty trades in 5, Dynasty League football. And then Josh Lucky, who does everything. Player profiler, and doing a lot of stuff out there for a lot of other websites too. So this is going to be a really good matchup. A lot of really talented FFPC Joes and a lot of Joes that are very familiar, or a lot of pros that are very familiar with the Pros versus Joes challenge format as well. So that will start at 9 p.m. tomorrow night. We will be back at it then. Until then, what you can do is make sure you have your FFPC main event teams paid off and register for your FFPC main event teams by midnight Pacific time tomorrow. If you do that, you will have your draft slot of where you're picking by July 29th. So super, super early. A lot of the people in your leagues may not have that information, and you'll have that information. You'll know where you're picking well before they know where they're picking, so you can start prepping for your draft. Make sure you're paying off those teams by midnight Pacific time tomorrow. The FFPC Fantasy Pros Championship is live. We have a ton of drafts going off. I'm looking at it right now. The 10 p.m. draft is filled. That starts in about 25 minutes. Yours truly is commissioning that. But I'm also commissioning the midnight draft tonight, which has 9 spots available, about 2.5 hours, so plenty of time to join that. That league is going to fill up. Leagues are filling up both slow and live every day with the Fantasy Pros Championship over at myffpc.com, so make sure you're registering for that and taking advantage of trying to win $1 million grand prize in a $6 million plus prize pool. Remember, you'll get $50 off every 3rd team that you sign up for with the Fantasy Pros Championship as well. Talked a little bit about the Best Ball Tournament and the Superflex Best Ball Tournament. Those are both live. The Best Ball Tournament with the FFPC, we added $100,000 grand prize, $100,000 onto the grand prize this year. So it's now a $300,000 grand prize, just $125 to enter that. And then the Superflex Best Ball Tournament, grand prize was $50,000. We upped it to $100,000 this year as well. So you can check that out at myffpc.com. Just $35 to play in that tournament. Dynasty startups and Empire Dynasty startups available now at myffpc.com. Those have been very, very popular. So check those out if you like playing fantasy football every single day. You wake up, you make trades, you modify your roster. That's available at myffpc.com. Join the KFFSC main event at kffsc.com as well. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. If this is the first time you're watching the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, we normally air Friday nights at 10/9 Central on the FFPC socials. Myself and Ferrell Elliott. We have a special Wednesday episode this week. So check that out at 10 p.m. this Wednesday. And I want to thank Darren Armani, our producer, mutual friend Rob, audio engineer, my best friend Bryce, and of course, all of our viewers and listeners that made this such an awesome broadcast tonight. So get your main event team squared away by midnight Pacific tomorrow night. I'll give you a reminder on the broadcast as we go live again with more Pros versus Joes challenge draft coverage that resumes at 9 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow night. Thanks for watching, everybody. Really appreciate it.